started this 5 times now and I can't work out how to start it. I've only done 49 of these videos. Hey, guess what? It's my Flossiversary. 5 years on Flosstube. How about that? August 2014, I made my first video. If you care to go back in time and watch that, you won't see my face. I didn't show my face then, but I do now. Anyway, here we are. It hasn't been that long since I did a video, surely. Maybe it has. In my world, it's not that long. July. Ha! Started July. It's now the end of August. But here we are. Now, I feel like I haven't done that much, but whatever. I'm here to tell you what I have done. That's great. So, if you've been watching my videos for the past 5 years, you would have seen this project. Green tree. I did a bit. I worked on this bit down here. Look at all these park threads. I'm going parking mad. It's pretty fun. So this is page 5 down here. And I just did that bit there. Some progress. Some is better than none. So I stitch it going this way. I stitch it. It's on the frame like that. So I stitch down. And then I just work down because the colours run that way. So it just works. It works well. Works pretty well for parking. And because it's 14 count Aida and it's just 2 strands of DMC, you know, it just moseys along. We do not have any expectations on when this will be finished or if it will be finished. I may die first. Doesn't matter. This is my foray into full coverage parking. It will be my only full coverage parking piece that I will ever attempt. So enjoy it while it lasts. I'm normally what you would consider, look, I think there are 2 types of stitches and you either fall into one of these categories or you're a bit of both. I'm a bit of both. One is you're either a progress stitcher or you're a finish stitcher. So you either like a process stitcher, sorry, not progress, a process stitcher or a finish stitcher. So you like, some people just need to drive for that finish, and some people just enjoy the process of stitching. I'm a bit of both. With this, I'm definitely a process stitcher. Most of my pieces already have a place on the wall allocated to them before I even start them. This may hang in my nursing home or cover me in my grave. Who knows? Anyway, that's it. It's still here. It did get thrown on the, you want to see how big it's going to be? That big. It did get put in the UFO pile in the naughty corner for a while. And then I pulled it out to do a whip parade and I went, actually, maybe I should stitch on that. So sometimes I stitch on it. If I stitch on it once a year, that's great. This is what it'll look like when it's done. Something like that. So that's good. You proud of me? I'm pretty proud of me. I'm in a weird mood today. So I'll show you a little thing that a bunch of you went on to the Wooden Cat Etsy shop and bought the project bag that I showed with the 10% off coupon, which was really cool. One of the things you would have seen on there, they have these things which are called pattern helpers. So they sent me this one, but they've also just sent me this one as well. Look at that. So they have this series. These ones are wood. These ones are like an acrylic plastic. And they have these new ones out now which have got these vintage cross-stitch images on them. And this is one of them. And it's super pretty. So the idea of this being in this shape like this is that I'm going to show you some of this chart because if you can work out how to stitch this green tree from what I show you, then good luck to you. So what you do It's got a magnet on each side, as you can see. Go together like that. So now I'll just put this on the chart. So when you're working on your chart, you can line it up. Oh, this is weird. There we go. You can line it up with your 10 by 10 grid. Like I said, good luck if you can stitch from this. You can line it up with your 10 by 10 grid and it just keeps your place on the pattern. This is probably particularly good if you don't mark your chart, but it's kind of just helpful anyway. So that's what a pattern helper does. You just sort of use it as a guide. So if you like pattern helpers, you can go to Wooden Cat and you can purchase one. They're in the Ukraine. They do really pretty things. So that's that. I'll show you my one other piece of haul. Is this? Look what I found. I found this at an op shop. I think it was 50 cents or something. So it's the Cross Stitch Pattern Designer by DMC. How cool is that? And it says that you can use photos, clip art, or whatever to make cross stitch patterns. So that's just a handy thing to have. I haven't even loaded it on. I haven't even put it on my computer, but I'm sure that'll come in handy some point in my life. Actually, it would have come in handy when I did that little class for my son's group where I taught them how to cross stitch and I made up these little kits. It's in my last video. Anyway, I did do that little class. I taught his class how to cross stitch and it was hilarious. So they're 7 years old, and there was like 25 of them. And they were like, no, help me, what can you help me do this? The little smurfs all around me, like desperately wanting me to thread their needle. Now, threading needles, it's tricky for 7-year-olds. But I was so impressed by their concentration. We did it for about an hour and a half. I was so impressed with how committed they all were to trying it. Some were better than others, but whatever, who cares? And some of them were quite good. And this was like 6 weeks ago I did that. And then they had the school holidays for 2 weeks. And a couple of the kids have come up to me and said, oh, I finished mine. And one of the boys brought it in to show the class and stuff. Anyway, it was really sweet. Just a nice thing to do. So one other thing I acquired was a gift. That was my birthday a couple of weeks ago. We won't talk about the number. It's a terrifying number. It's one of those scary, significant. No, let's not talk about it. Anyway, look. See this? See that? Can you see your reflection in that? So my darling friend, Julie, stitched this for me and framed it, and I love it. It's so nice to get stitchy gifts from people who know how much you'll appreciate the time and effort and thought that goes into them. So this is a Lizzie Kate design. I guess it's probably called Stitching Friends or Life is Better or something like that, but I'm sure if you look up Lizzie Kate, you'll find this. And Julie said she changed the colours because they were probably a little dull, especially for me. I like colour. Anyway, so Julie switched up the colours to suit me perfectly because she knows me, and she gave me this. And it's my favourite thing in the world, and it now hangs in my front lounge room, which is where we get together and stitch with our friend Virginia once a month. Because it's true. Life is better with Stitching Friends. Thanks, Julie. She's watching. I know she's watching. So, the other thing I got for my birthday that was stitching related was this. This is an embroidery kit. No, your eyes do not deceive you. This is not cross stitch. This is a little embroidery kit that I received from my elderly aunt. And I just thought this was so thoughtful because she knows that I cross stitch, obviously, and she saw this come up somewhere and she thought it was really pretty, and so she bought it for me, and she said maybe just something different from cross stitch for a little bit. Anyway, I really like the design, so she picked something great for me. I really like that. And I was looking at it and my husband said to me, he said, oh, that looks a bit like those teacups you have. And he was right. So this here, see this? Now I collect my Pyrex, as you can see, but this is also something that I really like. I have a few pieces. So this is by a Norwegian company from like the 70s. Now this here is called Lottie, and it's by, I always call it Turi Design, but it's Frigio Norway. I don't know how to say it actually. It's I'll put it down. Anyway, and it's this Norwegian vintage porcelain ware that I just love. Now over here, see, I have, these are some salt and pepper shakers down there, and that is a jug from the same maker, but this design is called Market, and it's all green. And I have a couple of other pieces in that, and then I have this, which is Lottie, yeah. And I've always loved this design, and so taking influence from this, because this is Scandinavian, and this is Scandinavian. You can see what I'm talking about? See my birdies? See where we're going with this? So instead of just doing the blue, it just came with blue floss, I've added some purple and green highlights to mine, influenced by some vintage Scandinavian porcelain. So here we go. I started it pretty quick. It's pretty quick to stitch up, and you can see here I've added some little purple and green highlights. Now it's super simple embroidery. If you're a cross stitcher, you've got this covered because it's basically back stitch. And so this is all back stitch and this is straight stitch, which is just leaving a gap. So it's just like the sewing method. It's like so simple, ridiculously simple. And I've just added, rather than it just being all blue, I've just put in bits of green and bits of purple. So see what I'm going? See? What do you reckon? You see what I'm doing here? Yeah. So, yeah, it's really easy. It's just on a canvas. It's obviously printed. Now, I don't know if that washes off or whether you have to. It was suggested to me that you actually just need to cover all the printed bits here with the stitching. So that's what I'm doing. And I'll make it into a pillow and I will put it on my sofa, because that's what you do with them. Yeah, so that's been something a bit different and really, really fast to stitch up. I mean, super fast. Easy. It's using 3 strands, and yeah, so if you're interested in some simple embroidery, and I'm sure she has some more complicated stuff, this is the name. They're on Etsy, and yeah, it's just been a nice little diversion from cross stitch for a bit. So I did have 2 finishes as well. Been busy. So I did this. This was a quick little new start that I had. This is, I think I showed this last time, Stitch or Die Pincushion by Heartstring Samplery. This was a gift from the lovely Tash, Star-Crossed Stitcher, which she kitted up for me and a group of friends because she's the best. And I finished it, and I ironed it, and I backed it because I'm super keen. And yeah, I really love it. So it's quite a big pincushion, really, isn't it? But then that's kind of handy. Anyway, it was even, she kitted it up with the called for threads, which I think Gentle Arts, can't remember, but they were hand dyed, so you can see a bit of variegation there in the scissors and in the thing. So there's a couple of changes I made because there was a couple of things that bothered me. As you know, I don't normally stitch, what would you call it, like primitive stuff. So there's a couple of things that really bothered me. Well, one thing that really bothered me, and that was the border. Now, look carefully at the border. See, there's 2 red, 1 yellow, 1, 2, 3 red, 4, 1 yellow, and then 2 red, 1, and then 5 red, and then 1 yellow, and then 2 red and 1 yellow, and then another 4 red on the side, flowers. And the spacing wasn't completely even between them. Now that bothered me. Look how colour coordinated my Pyrex is. No. So I changed it and made it 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 pattern around the edge and made the spaces even. Because some of them, like, there was 10 stitches between them, some were 11, and then some were 12, and I was like, oh, my upside down. No, couldn't deal. And the other thing I did is, see the little spools of thread? See that? They were meant to be cross-stitched, but I did them like a satin stitch. See that? And then the thread hanging off it just here, I couch stitched that, which is laying the thread flat like this across the cloth and then just doing little, does that make sense, on my arm, and then just tacking it down with a couple of stitches like this, so it looks like the thread is, because the thread is laying on top of the fabric, so it looks more like a piece of thread, not backstitch. Does that make sense? Anyway, I got the idea of satin stitching the spools from Stephanie at Lindy Stitches. She did that, and then I just added the couched thread because I just liked it. And that's that. So I'll make that into a pincushion. I've got a lot of finishing to do. I've got a lot of FFOing to do. I've got, that's 3 smalls, and then I've got 3 fairly decent sized things to frame. And this is one of my decent things to frame. Another finish. So this I started, I showed it in my last video. This is called Treasures from Home, and it is a sunset kit, an old one, obviously, if it's sunset. And I started this and I finished this. How nice. How nice is that? So this is, and I've even ironed it and I've even backed it with some fusible interfacing. So I swapped out the Ada that was in the kit. I'm not sure why I did, just did, with some Cashile 28 count linen white that I had in my stash. And it was just really nice to stitch, this one. Really easy. Came together really quite quickly. I love the colours. I love the subject. Yeah, a bit of back stitching, but I did that as I went because that is the secret to back stitching. And yeah, lots of lovely little bits and pieces to work on and keep you interested while you stitch it. So yeah, so I stitched that up too. So I feel like I haven't done a lot, but then I have achieved. That's everything I've stitched on. Oh, the other thing I have stitched on, but I can't show you, is I have been working on my round robin pieces, which I'm doing with my friends, 9 of us, and I've worked on Lorna Ladybird Stitches piece, and I finished that one. I have already sent it on, so I won't share it here. And I've stitched on Jan, who's Thread Garden, who doesn't make videos much anymore, but I highly recommend you go back and watch her videos because she's great. I've just finished stitching on hers, but she's keeping hers a secret from the other stitches, so I'm not going to share that here either. Anyway, so I have done that as well. So I've been busy with that. Busy. So I've got, at the moment, I had the green tree on my floor stand. I had this embroidery Scandinavian bird piece on my lap stand, and I've been working on my round robin in my Q-snap. So it's good. I'm working on 3 bits at a time at the moment. I'm working on my pieces for longer, but I can sort of mix up between the 3 that I've got out and working on. So, oh gosh, excuse me, it's only just like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm ready for a nana nap. So that's everything I've been working on. Like I said, this is going to be a short and sweet and to the point kind of video. I guess I'll show you what I'm thinking I'm going to work on now. I might pop green tree away now because I've kind of lost my buzz for it a bit. So I'll put green tree away now that I've taken it off the frame to show you guys. And I think what I might put on, I think I will put, I've been debating about a new start, but I've decided I'm going to put red back on the frame and work on her. That's red by Mirabilia. You all know what it looks like, so I won't show you the finished piece. And I'm going to stitch on this because, let's face it, it's Mirabilia's, if you haven't stitched a Mirabilia, you may feel daunted, but do not feel daunted. They really are a very achievable, easy stitch. So I'm going to put this on the frame because it's just blocks of colour and easy to stitch. So I'll put that on the floor stand. And it's probably the piece that I've got closest to a finish now. And I'd like to get one more finish before a big new start. Like to. I could be convinced otherwise, I think. But, yeah, so I'll get some work done on red. And then the other one I'm thinking about doing, because that embroidery piece isn't going to take me long either, is it's kind of renewed my interest in an embroidery piece that I started must be about 3 years ago now. It would be 3 years ago. Is this one. So this is by a South African designer, Hazel Bloomkamp, I believe it said. Put the name and everything down the bottom, as I always do. And she seems to be one of the go-to people for this type of embroidery. And I saw this at a craft fair a few years ago, and I had to buy it because the colours are great. Now, it's a lot more involved than that embroidery piece that I've been working on there, the little birds. This one here it's got lots of different stitches in it. But the great thing with this, excuse me, is that it has, I won't show it up close, but it has really detailed instructions on the different types of stitches. So it goes through in detail through the pattern, but it takes a bit of brain power. So I'm thinking I might, it's really great. Like the instructions are great. I know that she has some books available that go into the stitches in more detail. She's got a bit of stitch guide there, which you can buy, but how good's the internet? You can always look stuff up. So it takes a bit of brain power. This is all I've done on it. So it comes on this quite thick, double sort of lined canvas with the pattern printed. And this is all I've done. I mean, this is years ago. I haven't worked on this in years. But that's sort of, look, it's not going to be perfect because I'm a learner when it comes to embroidery. I am absolute amateur. But, so this is this little panel here on this flower. But I love the design. So I think I'm going to put this on my lap stand and just sort of have it sitting there, and when I feel the urge and I've got the ability to concentrate on learning a new stitch, I think it could be a nice little project. So, yeah, anyway. It's got quite a few colours in it. There's all the colours on there, and they're beautiful colours. And it's all DMC, which is, there's some DMC, and then it's got some that it's got anchor. It's got 5 anchor threads and then like 20 or more DMC, but I've actually come up with a close conversion for those anchors because I couldn't be bothered, and anything will work, right? Anything. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to put on my floor stand. On my lap stand, sorry. And not even 25 minutes and we're done. Boom, that's good. Okay, so that's August, that's July and August for you. And now we're going to be heading into spring, which I'm so looking forward to. I can see some of the flowers out there are thinking about blooming, and some already are. So that'll be nice. Anyway, thanks for joining me for another update. Thanks for joining me for the last 5 years. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Pyrex Stitches, or on my Facebook page if you don't do Instagram. And we'll talk cross stitch another time. Bye.